Yes, greetings to my dear senior one friends. My name is Ntubiro Godfrey, your history and political education teacher, and my colleague, Mr. John Winza from the Uganda National Sign Language Association, is explaining to those of you who learn by sign language. We are glad that we are going to go through this lesson with you today. The subject is history and political education, and the topic is finding out our past. I trust that you have kept yourself safely at home during this COVID-19 lockdown. The President of the Republic of Uganda and the Ministry of Health have given us further advice in order to survive the deadly coronavirus. They advise that sneeze and cough in your sleeves. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Avoid contact with people, especially in this season. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces. But above all, stay home. Stay home this time for your survival, for your life. Lastly, limit social gatherings to a maximum of 5 people while maintaining at least a 4-meter distance from other participants. So, my dear friend, I want to remind you that your learning methods, I'm talking to senior one, are different from the rest of the class in Uganda. You are studying a new curriculum in which you are expected to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Expected to be creative and innovative. You are supposed to develop communication skills, cooperation and self-directed learning, and other 21st century skills. Therefore, do not wait for factual knowledge, but we will try to help you learn, to discover, to explain, to analyze information, and finally, to apply knowledge in solving the problems of society. So today's topic is called Finding Out Our Past. And the subtopic is the relationship between history and political education. You know, you are the first people to study this subject called history and political education. Your friends in other classes are studying history. What do you understand by the term past? When we say the past, what do you understand? And why do we have to find out about the past anyway? What is so good about knowing the past? Then, how do we find about the past? So these are the questions we are going to try to answer in this lesson. Let's first try to understand those terms: history and political education. First of all, let's listen to these recordings, or let's try to watch them, and then try to make our own definition of history. You'll hear them. Number 1, number 2, what name do we give these sounds? Oh, what have you seen? Oh yes, you're right. These are ringtones. What is the name of the objects that make these sounds? Perfect. These are phones or telephones. Now, which of these 2 ringtones best represent the year 1976? The first one or the second? Oh yes, I understand. It is the first one. Thank you. It is the first one. It best represents 1976. Long time ago. Why do you think so? Great. Very good answer. You're saying that during that time, around 1976, there were only landline phones, and their ringtones were like those of an electric bells. Now, how did you know this? Because honestly, even your dad was not yet born that time. Is that so? Your grandfather. So your grandfather told you, you must be very lucky to have a grandparent who tells you about the past events. That's amazing. What can you say about the second ringtone then? Sure, your big brother this time? Mm-hmm. Okay, your big brother told you that the second ringtone is for the current mobile phones. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, let's look at it like this. Your grandfather told you about the past events or the things that happened in the past. And your big brother told you about the current events or things that are happening nowadays. What do you think, you yourself, what do you think will be the ringtones of the future phones? Really? You think telephones will be writing messages for us there in the space? Is that what you foresee? That's wonderful. That's what you predict. That's great. That's what you envision. Then, that's great. Now, let's try to make our own definition of history. Grandparents told us about the past events. Big brother told us about the current events. You are foreseeing, you are envisioning what will happen in the future. And all this is history. Now, can you define the term history in your own way? I believe you have capacity to do it. Remember, you must become a great thinker. Now, why do you think it is important to learn about past events? Why do you think it is important to learn about past events? Okay, when Grandpa told the story of the phone in the past, he must have mentioned the way it worked. Using a phone had made communication among people a little easier. However, there was one problem. The telephone sets were fixed in one place. People had to go to post offices to make calls. It was only the rich and government officials, actually some government officials, that would have telephone sets in their offices or homes. Is this a problem? It is this problem that the makers of the current mobile phones wanted to solve. Does that mean the past events help us in solving the current problems? Maybe. What is your view? What is your view? Now, knowing about the past or telling us about the past, Grandpa telling us about the past, he wanted us to understand the world He wanted to tell us who we are so that we understand cultures and to learn to judge wisely. Grandpa also wanted us to understand change and become good citizens. Now, briefly, what is political education? I will briefly tell you this one. That is, it is how governments are organized, and how they relate with one another. Governments, political education looks at activities related with the government of a country or an area. Dear friend, you are now going to answer some history and political education quizzes. You'll get a pen and paper to write your answers. You'll then discuss your answers with the people at home, if possible. You could also plan to discuss your ideas with your history and political education teacher when you return to school after this COVID-19 lockdown. I will repeat Grandpa's story to help you answer some of the quizzes. Yes, you may record it or ask your parent or guardian to help you do this. I'll play a 2-minute piece of music as you prepare. All right, welcome back from that short break. I hope you have your pen and book and ready to listen and do the activity. Let me read the quizzes as you write them first. You later listen to Grandpa's story, and then you will answer the questions after. The first question is, why do you think it is important to learn about the past? 2, apart from learning history from Grandpa and other people, which we call oral traditions. When we get information from a person telling us by history by mouth, we call it oral traditions. Apart from Grandpa's story, explain 4 other sources of history that you know or you may think about. Then another question is, have you been a leader or worked with a leader before? I expect you to have been a leader, some sort. Maybe you are a bigger brother at home, so you are a leader. Each of us is a leader in one respect or another. Now the question is, where did you get skills of leadership? What challenges did you face as a leader? Now let's try to conclude this section before we go to another section or session. That from this lesson or from this session we have just seen, we have tried to make our own definition of history and political education. We have also tried to discover the sources of information about history and political education. And therefore now, we want to see another session of this lesson. Okay, friend, now let's look at the sources of history. The sources of history can be classified into 3. Can you mention them? Yes, the primary sources, right? Then create the secondary sources, perfect. And then finally, the scientific sources. My friend, a primary source is the first-hand information we obtain from the person who witnessed the historical event, somebody who was around to see things happen. We call that the primary source of information. They are many times more reliable because the person is around to give evidence about what happened. So, what are the primary sources of history? Let's listen to these sounds and try to discover the primary sources of sound. We can even see what is happening on the screen. Now listen to the first sound. And as I'm saying, the video can also help you to think. So the question is this a primary source of history? Why do you think so? Now listen to the second sound. Still, the video can help you to think. And it is the same question. Is this a secondary source of sound? And why do you think so? Now, lastly, listen to this also. Those of you who want to see, you can also see. You can get the video to help you think. Is this a primary source of history? Why do you think so? Let's briefly look at the secondary sources. And we want to say that the secondary sources provide second-hand information. Somebody tells you what he was told, or somebody tells you what he read in a book. That is the secondary source of information. Examples here include journal articles, academic books. They are what we call reviews. When you read more books, you understand what reviews are. Most of the information in the books, most of the books give us secondary information. So they become a secondary source of information. A secondary source describes and interprets primary sources. Which of the sounds we heard or the videos we saw could have an element of a secondary source of history? And why do you think so? Now let's look at the scientific source of information. I want you to understand that science has mainly relied on the findings of archaeology. And that's how the scientists find out about the past. They mainly use archaeology in order to study about the past. Archaeology is the study of the material remains of man. Those things that are deep in the ground, that have been here for thousands of years. The other things you must have studied about, they call the fossils. You studied about fossils in P7 and used to sing that song. Fossils are remains of living things died millions of years ago. I don't know whether you know the song. So fossils are the remains of living things that died millions of years ago. The scientists dig deep in the ground and excavate and analyze artifacts. When they dig, they find pots, they find bones, they find metals, they find old sculptures, old paintings, There are some old buildings down there and many other ancient things. And they try to teach us history that comes from archaeology. So they use that scientific method to evaluate their work. Some key excavations that took place in East Africa, for instance, include those of a place they call Old Vai Gorge in Tanzania. We also have two here. One is in Masaka, in present-day Zimbabwe. That place is called Bigobyangeyi. It is in Zimbabwe district. We also have Magos in Karamoja, in the northeast of Uganda. We also have Magos in that place of Uganda. So, which source of history fits best in these situations or sounds, and why do you think so? When I listen to that one, for instance, the one you listen to now, you are listening to something now. I hear a song. So, is this a primary or secondary or scientific source? And now the visually impaired will be seeing, for instance, people performing on the screen. You have seen that. So that is music. Is it a primary? Is it a secondary or a scientific source? Why do you think so? So you are going to describe this now. Describe the situation first and then explain your argument. Now listen to number one. Number two. Number three. Now let's also try to attempt these questions. Which one do you think is the most reliable source of history among the three? Why do you think so? Now, what are the benefits of using the secondary sources of history? And what can be the challenges of the secondary sources of history? Then you are going to explain. You are going to explain the benefits of using the scientific method in finding out about our past. Lastly, other than archaeology, outline other scientific methods we can rely on to study our past. Discuss your answers with your parent or guardian and ensure that you share them with your history and the political education teacher when schools open. You take them, keep the books properly, and you have to take the work to your teacher. Now, having gone through this lesson, you have learned the sources of history. We have identified them as primary, secondary, and scientific sources of history. We are ending our lesson now. I want God to bless you, my friend. But remember to keep yourself safe from the COVID-19